How are you, man?
I'm doing great, man. Great to see you, brother. How's things
Great to see
been?
you. It's been a freaking awesome roller coaster of creativity and good vibes and challenges and exactly what this is supposed to be, man. How was Nashville?
It was a great time. The music out there is second to none. It is
Yeah.
unbelievable. When I was out there, thank you for asking, by the way. When I was out
Yeah, yeah,
there, it was a remarkable experience, to say the
yeah,
least, and I definitely want to talk about music with you and a lot of
yeah,
other things that you
yeah, yeah,
have
yeah.
going on because, brother, you've been like everywhere.
Yeah, been everywhere. Been really excited to be most recently here in Seattle with the NHL's 32nd franchise, dropping the puck this fall, which for a while felt like 100 million years away, and now feels like it's like tomorrow. So it's part of the beauty of being a part of something really significant, and a new sports organization. It's a rarity, and to be a part of this from the beginning, standing for different things. And trying to create an environment that Seattle sports fans, Seattle entertainment fans can really enjoy and be proud of. Uh, that's where we are now, man.
So, I mean, you're kind of familiar with this with the Golden Knights, right? Like you had that beautiful run that you had out here, and the showrunner for beautiful entertainment, like that production for the Golden Knights, especially in front of COVID, was amazing. And you have a lot to do with that, correct?
I was really lucky to be asked to join the Vegas Golden Knights, the 31st expansion, 31st team, a few years ago when that all started. And we had a hell of a team. The team on the ice had some chips on their shoulder. There was obviously the horrific tragedy in Las Vegas on October 1. And I think sports kind of shined its brightest light that first year where unprecedented historic run to the Stanley Cup final with a bunch of golden misfits and people creating a show and an environment, all from all over the place. And everything just kind of lined up really well. And obviously the tragedy was catastrophic, but also in the darkest of times, light shines and the best of humanity comes, and we lock arms as a community and as a sports community. And Las Vegas will always have a very special place in a few of our hearts who are a part of that, because we saw just the heart that city had, a real city that coming in from the outside you didn't know. And in the most challenging types of moments, they all rose together, and sports was a galvanizer, and sports brought people together. And we did some fun things on the show side. We made some silly mistakes on the show side, but the spirit of it was intentional. The spirit of it was for the fans, and to create an environment that would represent Vegas well. And 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 then they started winning. And then you kind of had like Disney come in and write the script of the season, and it's like, we just keep winning. This never happens. How does this go? And the city's behind it, and haters are going to hate on that kind of going. And but it was I think the soul of the city needed that sort of feel good that few things can offer. But I know you're a musician and you understand music offers that healing feeling. Entertainment in all factors, offer that healing. And it was really cool to be a part of that. That'll forever be, marked indelibly in my own heart as being a part of that journey for sure.
It's very empowering music, and what you said right there, the word you use, galvanized. Like I
Mm.
totally understand that. Unfortunately, I was around the situation that happened and transpired 9/11 around New York area, which you're originally from, I believe, right?
Yep. Yeah, yeah.
And
Upstate New York.
yep. So I had that situation where it was definitely unfortunate, but we saw everyone galvanize. We saw everyone recoup. We saw everyone get back to normal, if you will,
Yeah, yeah,
work and
yeah,
persevere. And that's what we've done. So I want to talk to you, Johnny. I got a lot of questions. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah. All right, man.
your whole start in the sports industry. I mean, I know you from WWE. I
Yes,
know
sir.
you from Golden Knights.
Mhm.
I also know you to do a lot of other things. What got you into the game of sports entertainment?
Film, movies. I was a movie freak growing up. I just absolutely loved it. And I loved playing sports, and I was a very below average athlete, but I loved it. I loved sports films, right? Rudy, Remember the Titans, Rocky, Field of Dreams. You saw these things happen, Hoosiers, where it's like, how did that team do that? Or how did that Prefontaine, how did that runner just keep going? And I just remember the combination of music, the combination of the visuals, the combination of an incredible story that sport often offers as a narrative. And I just grew up around that and loved it. And my parents supported the hell out of me to, kind of follow dreams and like go to film school and, go to make movies. And then it just, the way life happens, you don't know if it's like an adventure or tragedy at the time. It's like, is this good or bad? But it happens. And if you have the right mindset, you roll with it. And out of film school, I got a chance to work in sports because they needed a production person, which, film, TV, music, it becomes production. It's signal flow. It's creating a story. It's writing. It's, it's art, it's audio, video, it's all these. And I was like, I didn't even know you could do this for sports. I was like, I love sports. I love production. I can do this together. So, early on I got in with the Florida Marlins, and then you start making movies with the mascot. One of my very first video shoots ever was with Hank Aaron. I made a movie with him. It was just a video shoot. It was very simple, but you start to get to work with all these incredible, heroes of so many and athletes. And then again, you're just telling a story. Later at the game, you play that video back that you shot that was a little blue and a little blurry and the audio wasn't good because it was my first time shooting and it happened to be with Hank Aaron, but it was part of it and it was production incarnate. It became alive and that was the beginning of getting into sports. And as you had mentioned, I was really blessed to be a part of WWE for almost 6 years. And I'd worked for a few different teams and organizations, after the Marlins, but WWE brought back kind of the grandiose show. I know you're a big WWE connoisseur. You understand it. You love it. You appreciate it because you're a showman, because you understand entertainment, and they no one does it better than them. They make it big. They make good guys great and heroic. They make bad guys the worst people on the planet. And then that creates conflict, and friction creates change, and change is part of growth. And like when you're creating stories and narratives, no one does it better than WWE. So it was really neat for me after, almost 15 years in sports entertainment to go to the kind of the entertainment of sports entertainment in WWE. And they taught a ton of things I didn't know, and kind of old memories of watching Steven Spielberg movies and going to film school. I saw it kind of come alive in their space, and then taking all of that knowledge, right? We're never, if we stay hungry, we're always growing. And just, each opportunity that you're blessed to have there on out, you sort of take it, and it's like creativity and love. It doesn't run out. It expands. If you have a dog and you get another dog, you can love them both. Your heart expands. It's that way with children. It's that way. I think it's that way with people you bring into your heart. Like, it doesn't run out of space. It just goes. Creativity is the same space. Share the creation, build it, flex that muscle, grow that muscle. And it's been an awesome journey so far. And now I'm in Seattle getting a chance to absorb and learn and grow and do my best to be a part of a team that hopefully does something significant up here in the Pacific Northwest.
Let's talk about that, John, if you don't mind. I would love to talk about, the expansion team, what you're doing out there in Seattle. I know that by way of COVID, a lot of us suffered from like setbacks, and we were moving from here to there. And, I know you were obviously in New York City for a while. What's that experience been like for the hockey expansion?
Going from MSG, right, with the Knicks and the Rangers being an original 6 team, and the history, and you're an East Coast guy, so you appreciate just how beautiful New York City is and how tough it is, and the history there, and the love and the passion, and seeing that fan base, and then previously being in Vegas with the 31st expansion team or 31st team. Seeing that fan base, being the first pro team in that area, the juxtaposition of those two, you see the differences. They're stark, but you also see the threads of the spirit of creation, the spirit of supporting the arts, right? There's Broadway. Well, then there's the Strip, right? They're very different, but in the end, you're trying to build smiles on people's faces. That was a Vince McMahon line. We're in the business of creating smiles. Really, that's what we want to do. And all the darkness, 9/11, October 1, all of these tragedies, the pandemic, things that continuously thrive and push forward is like the joy of communal experiences, the joy of going to see your favorite artist, the joy of going to an art museum with families, or friends, being in a park for a music festival, high-fiving a stranger because Mike Piazza after 9/11 hits a game-winning home run, and you're just like, it's bigger than, the awkwardness of a stranger. It's like, holy cow, that we feel this spirit. And being here now in Seattle, which is one of the greatest sports cities by far, and the 12s of the Seattle Seahawks and the Sounders being great in the MLS. And, there's a lot of success out here, and there's a lot of expectation out here, and there's a lot of passion out here. But different than Vegas, there wasn't really a built-in sports fandom. We were part of sort of learning it, experiencing it, growing it with the community. Coming into Seattle, they're known for being unbelievable sports fans. They're known for Super Bowls. They're known, for MLS Cups. Like, we need to make sure we honor this the right way, right? So Vegas was a little bit of a blank slate. New York, we're talking recent experiences. New York's like, hey man, we've been doing it this way for a long time. Don't mess it up. And then as we shouldn't. Then you come here, it's like, okay, we've been doing it here for a long time, but not hockey. Like, there was hockey here in 1917. The first ever U.S. Stanley Cup was the Seattle Metropolitans. Most people don't know that, but like, that was from 1970. But most of those people don't remember that. So it is new, but there's quite a family of incredible sports environments here that we have learned from, and the people who are the us for the other teams in this town have embraced us. We've done Zoom calls. They've sent us like examples of what works and what doesn't work. They've done everything to help us find, success, however you define that. But basically just like, don't mess it up. Do these things, don't do these things, and then kind of find your way. And a lot of that is, the Seattle fans, the Seattle market, this is their experience. We're listening to them. We don't want to come in here and do a Arizona Coyotes show or a Vegas Golden Knights show or a New York Knicks show. We want to do a Seattle Kraken show. And that means it has to be Seattle. It has to be Pacific Northwest. It has to have, the people who live in this community, their voice needs to be heard. We need to listen to it. And then we need to, create the experience together. It's a collective vibe for sure.
I love the vibe that you're setting out there. How does that come to fruition? Like when you, obviously you've done a lot for the WWE, you've done a lot for hockey with the Golden Knights, and now, in Seattle. Do you like dream that up? Like, do you lay down at night and think about like the concept of it, or like how does that come to fruition?
That's a great question. And if this was a 7-hour podcast, I don't know if we'd have enough time to cover it all. The truth is, all sports have certain beats that you hit. It's like that, Metallica goes on stage, lights go out, right? You do your doors open, the opening act, maybe some messaging, lights go out. They don't play their top 10 highest BPM tracks to start. You got to ebb and flow. You got to finish strong. You got to set up the encore. Sports is a lot like that. WWE, you had more of a strategy to the overall experience where you could you took a lot of risks, but you had a narrative of the experience, and you would build up to your main event. And you would, even if if a heel would win the last match, people could get really mad about that and then leave and be disappointed. You could still create a nuanced story moment where it still feels good for people. And there's so many different ways to work those stories. Sports has their natural beats, right? Puck drop is going to happen. Tip off is going to happen. First pitch is going to happen. So you highlight the big moments. You're going to have inning breaks where you're going to have your promotions and your videos and your narrative of the game experiences, your replays, all the stuff we've come to love. So you look at that holistically. What are our opportunities? In this case, we're talking hockey. You have 2 different intermissions that you can activate in. You have 4 minutes on and off the ice that you can activate in. You've got 3 timeouts as long as they're not bumped each period. How are we engaging with the audience? That's standard. There's 32 teams that have in the NHL that have to go through this. WWE illuminated different ways to create stories. So now, instead of just, you look at it first, you're like, okay, here's hockey and this is what we can do. And most people do a hell of a job just doing that and there's so many phenomenal producers in sports entertainment who could do a bang up job there. WWE would question like, well, if you're the Golden Knights, why is your microphone not plated gold? If you have a video screen, why are you saying, hey, John, take a look at the video screen versus calling it something, the Megatron, the Titantron, the Nitron in Vegas for the Knights, like giving everything a character, attribute, and trait, naming your fans. And some of this has to be organic. You can't force feed all of it. But again, I'll just keep going to Vegas because we're talking about this. The medieval maniacs, right? Well, you're providing an energy and a discipline to what you expect your audience to be. We could say, hey, John, how about these fans? Let's take a look at the video board. We could be in Paris, Dubai, or Newark, and that's all true. Now, how do you build characters constantly? On my golden microphone with my name, I'm here with Johnny, who's one of the medieval maniacs here in Vegas in the fortress, and let's take a look at Nitron. All of a sudden, that is very brand centric, but it's fun, and it fuels your audience to be collective and be a part of the experience, be a part of the energy. And in the end, what we do, we're not scoring the goals and the baskets and the home runs, but we can create an environment that helps the team on the ice or the field or the court get the best out of themselves, and we're not making the jump shots, but we can create an energy where people get excited to celebrate the jump shots a little bit more. And if the game's close, you build up this equity with the fans within a game, but within a season, within a tenure of a team. That fourth quarter, it's close. We've got the fans because we're a collective spirit, and now we need you to do this. And they'll do it with enthusiasm. And even better yet, we're not asking for it. They do it on their own because we've developed a conditioned response to these the standard moments in hockey. Puck drops coming. Okay, get on your feet. Let's get loud. Power play's coming. Okay, let's yell. But maybe what's the Seattle thing that happens, right? Like New York Rangers, I remember there's the conditioned response at the Rangers games. They do the whistle. Puck man sucks, which is from the late 70s because of a hit from an Islanders player with the Rangers. And I didn't know the backstory when I got there, but there are these conditioned responses that fans, win, lose, or draw, get excited to be a part of. So if the game is going well, awesome. We can't always control that. Very rarely can we control that. So what are we providing for our audience to join in agnostic of the scoreboard where they're like, Johnny, you were at the game? I was. Man, I got a high five from the mascot. I did that cheer they did. In the third period, they do this incredible thing, and I finally got a chance to do it. The mascot did this. Did they win, though, dude? No, they didn't. But, whoa, we had a good time. That's what we are trying to do always. But, again, it's collective. It's not us telling Seattle what to do. It's us listening to what Seattle wants and then providing it for them and then together, uniting and creating something really cool.
Fan engagement is huge for any sports that you go and witness and enjoy. You mentioned Seattle. I'd be hard pressed not to mention Seattle music. I'm a big Nirvana fan. I'm a big Alice in Chains fan, big Soundgarden fan.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. Let's talk about music, brother. And I know that you've brought that into your productions with the Golden Knights, with the drums and all that assembly that you've done, which was remarkable and really gave the fan engagement. Put them in the situation where they felt the passion and the theatrical of what sports really is. So the question that I have for you is talk to me about music, man. What do you like?
Well, I like that you provided a lens to my kids to love music more than mom and dad could have, because you were incredible at teaching them and bringing music to their heart. They love to dance and they love to do what they do, but they still play music because of what you did and introduced to them. So we are forever indebted to that. I know music, that literally is the rhythm to your heart. And my kids have that because of you now. So thank you for that. Music, as you know, it's important. Music makes you feel things that you didn't know you needed to feel. Music, the simplest chord, the simplest instrument recorded in the right way, played at the right time, can bring you to tears, can make you want to become Rocky and run through a brick wall, can make you be angry at someone. And you're like, why are you mad at me? Like, I don't know. I just heard this song and I guess that's why. Like, it's a powerful, powerful thing. And at sporting events, it's becoming more and more common to play a lot of music. For better or worse, there's standards. So there's a lot of the same stuff you hear at places. Like, you close your eyes and you're like, yeah, it's, you know, AC/DC, Metallic, like, cool.
We Will Rock You. Boom,
And
bop, boom,
there's a
boom,
place
bop,
for it. There's a place for it. Like, I don't think that stuff goes away, but I've always been really turned on by the venues, the cities, the teams that embrace their space. And moving to Seattle, wow, there's a music history here. And that's part of what we've done. It's like crazy research. And I think it'd take another 50 years to really understand the DNA and the fiber of music in this community. But yeah, you Alice in Chains, Nirvana, Foo Fighters, you know, Pearl Jam, of course, you know, and then you're like, did you know that Ray Charles was heavily influenced by this market before he went to record his first album? Like, Seattle's a big part of Ray Charles, which you wouldn't necessarily think. Kenny G's from here. Macklemore, obviously. Sir Mix-a-Lot. Like, there's a lot. Jimi Hendrix, of course. Like, so you start to look at like a game experience and you're like, all right, I'm not playing music that you like or I like. I mean, hopefully we like it, but we're really playing what's the right music for the fans in this arena? What's the right music for Seattle? And then, you know, what are the arena staples? Because you're going to play those too. But like, literally, what's the rhythm and tone of this market? And how do we fit that into the hockey space? And by the way, you're going to probably play about 250 snippets of songs. So it's not like, what songs are you going to play? It's not a top 10 list. Like, you are going to play hundreds at each game. And in Vegas, big DJ market, Imagine Dragons, Panic at the Disco, you know, a lot of those types of artists. Like, you play up the top 40 and kind of a little bit of everything, right? There's country, you literally, it's a very inclusive, audible space. So that's where we went in. But more than just playing songs, it is, do you have a house band? What type of music, right? In Seattle, like funk, rhythm, and blues, that's a big part of the Seattle sound. The stereotypical, like, grunge, like, of course, that is a massive feather in Seattle's cap, but it is a way bigger landscape. If you ask Seattleites, what's the sound of Seattle? So we got to make sure we honor all of that and just talk to people who are historians of music in this space. And we're lucky to have some great partners there to help us with that. But one of the things you were referencing in Vegas that was pretty cool, because a few teams have kind of taken this lead now, and they've been around, but they weren't happening in hockey, was adding a drum line. Right? Literally, a drum is the beat, is the rhythm, is the heartbeat to the pulse of clapping, of cheering, of feeling connected. And this was something, again, credit to the WWE experience. The NBA plays music all the time. They sometimes maybe too much, but they play music, dribbling the ball up the court, down the court. The PA is essentially always open. PA announcers can talk, hosts can talk, music's always playing. It's a little bit sensory overload sometimes if you're not a little more strategic with it. But hockey is kind of the opposite, where the puck gets dropped and you can have all the loud noises, crazy, it's exciting. Puck drops, quiet. Let me hear the ice. Let me hear the scraping of the blades. Let me hear the dashers get hit. Let me hear and occasionally the fans will start their own cheers because they're great sports fans and the game's awesome. But sometimes there's not a lot of breaks. So taking the WWE mindset of keeping the audience always connected, we realized pretty quickly in Vegas, the NBA plays stuff all the time. Well, we can't, like, legally through the league play stuff through the PA system. But what makes noise that doesn't go through a PA system that is super simple? We don't need perfect, beautiful classical music. We need something that gets people to clap and cheer and create home ice advantage. So we saw an opportunity. And again, it was prevalent in the Vegas market, but creating a drum line. And not just a drum line, because it was Vegas. Let's go like LED, neon style. And then so it fit the brand. It wasn't totally obtuse. But really what it did was give the fans permission to cheer in hockey, when if they don't do it on their own, you can't help plant the seeds. So it was a seed planter for the drum line to cheer, and then the fans would cheer "Go Knights Go," and all of a sudden they become conditioned, and then you don't even need to use the drum line because you've set them up for this kind of success and this kind of noise. And the best part of game presentation, when done well, is you lay out. You don't need to do much because you let the fans do it. You just give them a little nudge, maybe plant a seed here or there, but then you let them just go. So you got to be smart about it and strategic, but you can't be indulgent and overproduce because people will call BS on you quickly, and they should. We should have that called on us, because we're not creating just a show, generic show USA here in Seattle. This got to be Seattle. This got to be Seattle Kraken hockey.
I love everything you were talking about there. I mean, think about the WWE. Whenever that song pops off for like Roman Reigns,
Yeah.
Anyone, The Rock especially, like you just get lit up. Yeah. Like music has an influence on people, especially when it comes to sports and film. Like you've mentioned Rocky a couple times. Mm-hmm. I was actually just working out earlier today, listening to the Rocky IV soundtrack, which I think is probably the greatest soundtrack of all film history. Yeah. And I mean, if you've never worked out to the Rocky IV soundtrack, then you've never worked out in your entire life.
My dad for my 8th birthday got me the Rocky IV soundtrack. And I remember I put it in the tape cassette, played it, and what felt like I probably ran a marathon. It probably felt like that. I probably just ran like 20 laps around the dining room table. But I was like, I'm 8 years old. Like, this music, I now need to be Rocky. Like, I know it's a Sunday night and I just had birthday cake, but this music's making me feel something I've never felt before. And in all of my being, I was like, I'm going to be a boxer. Like, here we go. I woke up the next morning with sore hamstrings and I was like, nah, I'm not going to box. That's for you guys. But it's still, I was touched by the music in a way. And it was powerful. I'm with you. Definitely one of the greatest soundtracks of all time. Without.
Oh my God, Vince DiColi,
unbelievable.
The composer, Stan Bush also had a lot to do with that. Just amazing. They also did the soundtrack for the Transformers movie, which I'm a big fan of, the original one from 1986. And speaking of shows, are you watching anything currently? Like, what are you doing to pass the time, buddy?
There's not a lot of time to pass. We're starting up a franchise, brother. You know what? We look to be inspired everywhere all the time. And it sounds like a cliche, generic response, but like listening to the Rocky IV soundtrack is going to give you ideas. Reading a new book or just an article is going to give you ideas. Watching your incredible children that Amanda and I have and seeing them draw a picture of a dragon or smile after getting his Little League trophy for the first time ever, like that inspires you and makes you want to write music, makes you want to create a mascot, makes you want to, build the right script for Seattle. So just studying where we are, studying the people that we're with, having conversations with a bartender and saying, hey, what do you remember of Key Arena before it was Climate Pledge Arena? Like when did your uncle take you to your first Mariners game? Like the Field of Dreams, Dad, want to have a catch? Like pulling into the nostalgia and what got us all into this beautiful space. But then it's more than just the sport. It's not what it used to be. We have to connect all of the dots of the music, of the visuals, of the characters, of the game, and then just being mindful of the consciousness of society, right? Like millennials now are buying tickets. They have different interests at games. They're going to be on their phones more. So literally creating an environment that allows them. I'm not a big social media guy, but I'd be a fool to not be paying attention because that's part of creating the best experience for our fans. But Amanda and I just watched Mayor of Easttown with Kate Winslet. Unbelievable. She's beautiful. The acting was phenomenal. The music was understated. The editing was understated. And sometimes the best of that, like you shouldn't even notice it because the whole piece collectively was like, whoa, it took you on a ride. So that was the most recent thing we watched. But again, from that, right, I watched it. We're not going to create like a homicide thriller at Seattle Kraken games, but in the way they shot that series, dark, cold blue. They were in a coal mining Pennsylvania town. Well, the Pacific Northwest and the depths of the ocean has kind of a cold blue tint if you want people to feel scared. And so you can be influenced and inspired if you just, take a breath, listen, look, just take a second. And if you want to be inspired, you will be inspired. If you're walking around saying, I'm not inspired, it's like, because you're really not opening your heart to find it. So it's everywhere if you open your eyes.
So as fans, what can we experience to go out there and see Seattle Krakens?
So with the Seattle Kraken, fan experience, to be determined. You know, we know that as a brand, we're mysterious. We know as a brand, we're sophisticated, we're clever, we're going to be respectful. You got to have fun. If we're not entertaining, we're missing the boat. And, you know, sometimes this happens. You lose a game 5-0. The hockey that night probably wasn't entertaining. So we better be entertaining and give people, you know, the bang for the buck, but also just being really Seattle centric. And then similar to the Golden Knights side of things, like there's a brand being defined before your eyes. And it's not up to us to define it exclusively. Like we need it has to be a collaborative effort, and we have to be willing to say, hey, game one is what we're coming out with. Hopefully we're close, but we know there's going to be a whole bunch of good mistakes in there that we can learn from and grow from. And game two, you nuance this, or you change this, or hey, that song was the right song at the wrong time, or oh my God, never play that song again. They hated that. Just constantly listening and evolving, and whatever we come out with, the spirit of it will be what we will always have, but it won't be the same thing game 1 to game 2, definitely not game 1 to game 20. And by the end of the year, there's a big evolution to where we go, but we don't do this if we don't do this well if we don't lock arms with Seattle as a community and Seattle sports fans. So we told kind of a lot of people, we'll come in here and do our best, and we'll probably get like 70% of it pretty close. Purposely, that 25-30%, that's for Seattle to figure out, and it's for us to then, but the liaison of fun, the liaison of entertainment, to help it come to fruition for them. So we're excited to lock arms with Seattle and create their experience with them.
Let me say this, John. You know, I'm going to throw this out there. You are an absolute amazing hustler, for lack of a better expression. You work your ass off. You have gone through the WWE, you've gone through baseball, hockey, numerous things. What propels you to do these amazing things that you do, man?
People. I love people. I love being around people. My father, I think you and I have talked about this. My father passed away when I was 21. Heart attack, gone quick. And it was like, whoa, that's how it can happen. Like he had plans. My mom and him had plans. We all had plans to have kids and live on the same block and be down in Florida. And it was kind of like when your hero and your best friend on the planet, who gave me the Rocky IV soundtrack, and, you know, took me to my first Mets game, when he's taken away and you're like, oh, I didn't account for that. It shapes your world. And it was the greatest gift I could have ever been given. Again, attitude, tragedy, adventure. You know, him leaving is sad, but that was part of his soul's journey. But what it taught me was we have today, right? Johnny, we got to talk today. We got this phone call. I got to kiss my kids this morning. I got to see my amazing wife this morning. Like, I'm thankful for that. And if I get to get home tonight and do it again, great. But if you literally have that level of attitude and gratitude in your heart, cool. If I get tomorrow, yes. If I don't, like the relationship with my father, my best friend, I didn't not say I love you enough. I didn't not hug him enough. I didn't ever question if he and my mom like supported my dreams. Like, so like living and honoring what they were, like, okay, like it's not about like 20 years from now, where you're going to be. It's like, we have right now, and we have an incredible team in an incredible city. And we're doing this with our hearts wide open with love, and we're going to do the best we can. And is there failure if you try that? Like, no, not really. Like it may not go well. We may mess this up, man. We are going to. That's part of the live production. You know that. But we did it with our heart, and we did it with an open heart, and we're susceptible to improvement, of course. And we make the most of the moment we have. And that's it. It is hustle. There's a difference, right? Like I've never been the smartest, the most talented, none of that. I work pretty hard. And that's something I can control, right? I wasn't 6'5". I wasn't going to play basketball. I couldn't hit home runs, but I could hustle. I could be out there longer than the rest. I never finished first, but I'd be out there longer than the rest. And you kind of take that same sort of Rocky spirit, right?
That's why I brought it up, is because real recognizes real, man. Like, I knew it from day one when I first met you, and had the fortune and an opportunity to teach your great kids how to play some music. And I'm glad that they're still doing it. They're still doing it, right? Goldie and Marlon?
Goldie and Marlon, absolutely, man. They're in it, and you planted that seed, man, at a level I'll never be able to say thank you enough for, man, for real.
I'm going to tell you something. Both of them learned so incredibly fast. almost to the point where as a teacher, as an educator, I had to be like, whoa, maybe I should slow down how much I'm showing them because they're going to make me work my ass off. Let me be honest here. Like,
That's good.
oh, unbelievable. And then when they got like bitten by the bug of music, they just went online and looked at things and started working out like some of the the whole things I showed them, and they did such a tremendous job, and they were so excited all the time. Whenever I showed up at school, they were so excited, and that made me feel so wonderful. And I got to ask you a question about your kids. Goldie and Marlon. Okay, here's what's up. You worked for Golden Knights and you worked for the Marlins. Is that a coincidence or
100% yes. A Marlin is a nod to my dad because we'd fish together, and it was like we're gonna go someday catch the greatest fish ever. We fished feels like 1,000 times, right? It's marked in my heart, but it was one of the best things we ever did. And I did work for the Marlins, and I love fish, but Amanda and I were thinking of a name for a boy. And unfortunately, as we mentioned, my dad passed away before we ever got a chance to go and catch the greatest fish of all time, a marlin, like the blue marlin, or, old man in the sea. And Amanda and I were talking about names, and she says, you know what? I want to give you the fish you never got to catch with your dad. So we're going to name our son Marlin. Wow. So it's a nod to my hero. And now I have a son who's my hero, and it's not Marlin spelled like the fish because he's his own little dude and he's going to have his own beautiful path. So he has the O-N to differentiate, but it's definitely a nod to my dad and a nod to something I love so much. And no matter how much I love fishing, like your kids come in the mix and that's a whole different party. And then Goldie was one where it's like, Amanda and I love the 1920s, fun romantic era. We looked at the names from that time. It was like, the 22nd most popular name was Goldie. We're like, Goldie Greco. We're like, that kind of name? Like, this could go two ways, John. She could be a CEO or she could live in Vegas maybe and have a different kind of career. And then we moved to Vegas after she's born. I'm like, what are we doing here? But it was all good. Goldie Greco is going to be what she needs to be. And Marlon Greco is going to continue to teach us about love and everything else. So not tied to that at all, and probably a longer answer than you need, but
it's good, man.
And I'm proud of them.
Is she still playing piano, Goldie?
They play piano, drums. Marlon got a violin for Christmas. Like, again, I blame you and I thank you for they take the iPads and they learn how to play songs and they set it up and they have all these great chord structures, and you know it. But thank you again for that.
Well, I thank you for the opportunity to inviting me into your wonderful family and showing the music and everything, and of course everything that you've done, especially showing up today. So to wrap things up, we're going to talk about New York City.
All right.
You grew up there.
So my mom and dad are Brooklyn, Marine Park, Brooklyn. I grew up a Mets fan. I grew up in Oneonta, New York, right by Cooperstown. So I was three hours north, but grandma was on Avenue R, and we would visit her and then go to Avenue N for all the Italian bakeries and everything in Brooklyn. So it was a big influence in my life, but I didn't grow up in New York City. But my parents, they sounded like James Gandolfini's, cousins. For sure.
Did you see the trailer for the Many Saints of Newark?
No.
Oh, prequel Sopranos coming out.
Writing that down right now. That sounds insane. Okay, very good.
Okay, so Michael Gandolfini, obviously the son of James, looks tremendous as playing a young Tony Soprano in a prequel.
Oh, awesome. Awesome.
I think that I was a little bit apprehensive at first about it. I'm like, I don't know, man. Sopranos, it's almost untouchable. It's so good. It's like one of the best show. It's perfect. It's like one of the best shows of all time. And then it's like, okay, they're going to do a prequel. And then I saw the trailer, and it's a 2-minute long trailer, and wow. Like,
dude, as soon as we're off, I'm checking it out.
I was so incredibly happy. I had the privilege to have Steve Sharippa, who played Bobby Bacalao. Yep.
Yeah.
On the show, and great guy, and he does the Talking Sopranos podcast. And if you guys have not listened to this yet, please do. You know, it's Michael Imperioli is also a part of it, and they have probably the best commercials I've ever heard. Nobody likes commercials, right? Nobody likes commercials, but they have the best commercials ever. Like
people don't like commercials. People love good stories. So if you can be compelling in your story and it ends up being a commercial, no problem. But if you lead with commercial first, you lost me. You lost everybody. It doesn't connect.
Oh, that's why I never do it. Like with my show, when I pop it off, it's always just like, you know, I have a sit down. It's like we're having lunch, and I'm not like, hey, my name is John Signorella, and follow me over here, and look at me on Twitter, and no, I don't do any of that. You know, like, I mean, I love a lot of podcasts. I understand that they're doing things because they have to do it a certain way.
You got sponsors and everything else, like, but there's different ways to create it, and some of it can be takes a little bit more time, but it can be more organic, and that can still be fruitful. But there's strategies and different ways to implement. But when you are authentic, which you are, you know, I do think things come your way that just feel better, and when you can be real, you know, you may have less followers in that case, but you're real. And eventually that permeates, and people hear of that, and like you said, real recognize real, like they get it, and they love that.
Thank you, Johnny. And so I want to go back to food real quick. New York City. I'm from the East Coast originally, and now I live in Vegas, obviously. Could we just be honest that the food in Vegas is not very good?
So I've lived in a lot of places. I was born in Italy, which is super cool. I was lucky because my dad went to vet school out there, so that was kind of amazing. So, and with WWE, obviously, we get the blessing to travel all over the planet Earth and eat all over the place. Few places on this beautiful globe of ours has food like the East Coast, without a doubt. Each place has its own style and its own vibe. Like, I lived in Miami. Find better Cuban food on the planet, probably Cuba, but after Miami, like, it's amazing there, you know? So, like, I think being in the Pacific Northwest, like, Asian cuisine, if you're not in Asia, it's pretty darn good out here. Vegas has a lot of options, but that's part of the beauty of it, right? Like, it gives you a little bit of everything, but it doesn't lean into a New Jersey diner and a bagel like New Jersey does. You know what I mean? Like, it can. If it did just that, it wouldn't have all the other flavors, pun intended, that the tourists enjoy about it. So, Northeast food, man. You're not going to lose me on that. I'm in there, man. I'll share a slice with you anytime.
I love the fact that you mentioned a bagel. Like, a breakfast sandwich is so big, like, you know, Taylor ham, you know,
like, pork roll, Taylor ham. What are you doing? Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that food, I don't know if it's the water or whatever.
Yeah.
When I moved out to Vegas about 7 years ago from New Jersey, the one thing I did not expect is the food to be so terrible. I was like, wow, this food really sucks out here.
I don't think Vegas food is terrible. I think Northeast food is that good. Let's do that.
Is that what it is? Okay.
That's what it is. You're coming from, like, you know, the heaven of deliciousness. And I think Vegas food is very good. I think your Northeast cuisine is just a little bit of the creme de la creme. But again, if you want beignets, don't get them on the Jersey boardwalk. Like, go down to New Orleans, you know, like it all, you want barbecue, you know, they've got good stuff all over the place, but there's Kansas City or Texas or North Carolina. You know, it depends on what your flavor palette is. But I think nothing tastes as good as nostalgia, brother John. I think that's what
I think that's a proper way to put it.
Yeah.
Real quick before I let you go, I keep saying that. That's what I always do. You're a Star Wars fan?
Heck yes.
Okay. Talk to me about The Mandalorian. What do you think about it?
The last episode this season 2, our whole family watched together, and you know, Grogu, everybody loves Baby Yoda, Grogu. But when Luke shows up, and technology's catching up, and they make him look damn good and very realistic, right? And he's
Mhm.
young and he's youthful and like in the chronological order of where that is, and he's just at his Jedi, peak and just smoking all the Empire. I was in tears. Like my kid, they look at me and they're like, "Dad, are you crying?" And I'm like, "You have no idea how cool this
I
is."
was gonna ask you if you cried because I cried when it
Oh,
happened.
if you're of our age, of our generation, of people who love entertainment, and it's definitely Star Wars. And you talk about John Williams and scores and music and how it makes you feel. It was phenomenal. I mean, it was the episodes where they bring in all these different characters, and I'm the prime initial Star Wars, right? Like the nine, I'm there and stuff. But you watch. Oh my God, Rogue One, and then you watch Solo, and you watch all these. Like, I'm into all that. I didn't get into like all of the Lego Star Wars and all this, but like at the core of what it is, Mandalorian was amazing. And the music you watch like on Disney Plus, the making of the soundtrack, like we were talking about this, and you see the way they found the theme and the score and the spirit of not taking the John Williams exact, but like still giving it a feel. And the Mandalorian's a polarizing character, right? He's like pained and you don't see his face, and a little bit like a mascot where you only have so much you can do when you don't see the eyes and you don't see. So his subtle moves, again, where can you get inspired? If you're a mascot, you probably have watched that because you see the subtleties of every move and the simplest little head turn, how that can play, and certain camera angles to make him feel heroic or maybe a little small after he's been beaten down. Unbelievable filmmaking. Jon Favreau, it's pretty epic what they're doing. And as a nerd of just good entertainment, and definitely a Star Wars nerd, may the force be with all of us, and may they keep making that kind of stuff because it's amazing.
Favreau did a great job, and also the actor that played the Mandalorian. And you're absolutely 100% correct. I mean, to wear a mask and have emotion, that is
Yeah.
not easy to do. And
No.
it's all about set pieces and camera angles and all that kind of stuff. And when he had Baby Yoda in his hands, and
Oh yeah.
they were saying goodbye, dude,
Oh,
I cried.
of
I'm not
course.
gonna lie. I was
'Cause it was
watching this
real.
shit. I stayed up
Yeah.
until like I don't even know how late at night.
Yeah.
And then my wife's asleep. I go in the bedroom and I'm like, oh my God, it was so good. The Mandalorian was so good. The
Yeah.
final episode of
Yeah.
season 2 was so amazing.
So amazing.
And she's like, are you really doing this right now? You promised me you wouldn't do this right now. I'm like, I
It's
can't
not a
help it.
fair promise to make, John. You
It's
cannot make that
not a
promise.
fair promise to make. And she was really pissed off. And then the thing was, too, is I knew it. Like going in like a couple episodes prior to the last one, I said that Luke Skywalker is going to show up.
You called that?
I called it. I had it. For some reason, I had it. But I also did the same shit with Fight Club.
Yeah.
Like I already knew. Like, so I'm pretty good at like, premonitions and stuff.
Yeah.
So when I was watching that, I'm like, when I saw the X-Wing come in, I'm like, here we go. Okay, so no X-Wings coming in by itself unless it's Luke Skywalker.
You were right. It's the
Plain
thing
and
that
simple.
there's a beat. There's a beat to stories, and if you followed Star Wars lore and everything else, and just also like giving the fans what they want, like that's a pretty epic moment in the last, since what, 77, like last 30 years, 40, 50, almost 50. Like it's crazy. And that will be a moment people will talk about. So it was a great nod to the past, which again, all what they were talking about, hockey's this way. There's the original six, how it started, honoring the game, the tradition, baseball, like holy, it's been around for all this time. But we also have to always move forward, not move on, but move forward with honor and grace. But you always tip your cap to where it came from. And I thought that's what they did beautifully in that.
John, it's remarkable what you said right there, is that I could not agree more. If we look at the franchise, Star Wars, the original one, A New Hope, as they call it.
Yeah.
What was that, 1977?
77, yep. Episode 4.
Jeez, man. And look at how the process goes, even like with Rocky films, and so many people are so hard on franchises.
Yeah.
And I say, like, they're still going out there. One I want to see big time is Lethal Weapon 5. I think that's a movie that
Burton Riggs, let's do it.
gotta do it, right?
I
Come
still
on, we
lethal. What was
need
it?
that
Lethal Weapon.
film.
It was Lethal Weapon 2 when he's sitting on the toilet and the bomb, and they're like, "Okay, we're gonna jump."
Yep.
He's like, "In 3, 2." He's like, "Wait, is it on one or one and then go?" And I'm like, every human being who's ever moved the couch has had the same thing. Okay, we're gonna lift it. 3, 2. Like, wait, and because everyone's interpretation of a countdown is very different. If you're not in like broadcast, that was like such a human moment and very, very cool. Yeah, that'll be Lethal Weapon 5.
The chemistry between Danny Glover and Mel Gibson was second to none. They are amazing.
Yes.
As far as films go, do you have favorite movies? Is there any movie franchise that you like?
It's a list of 100. I always tell Amanda, I'm like, oh, that's definitely my top 10. She goes, your top 10 is 500, by the way. She goes, that's the 500th top 10 you've told me. No, but I love, and it's generational too. Like I went to film school, so I love classics like Psycho and Wizard of Oz and The Apartment and Some Like It Hot and those kind of movies. But I've always been a big sci-fi guy. So Predator, Aliens, Star Wars, but then just Spielberg in general, right? E.T., Jaws is probably my favorite movie of all time. The Indiana Jones, Back to the Futures, Alan Silvestri, great movie score. And then all the sports movies too, which we talked about. So I loved all those, but in the 90s was the independent phase, which again, I was like getting ready to go to film school. I was making videos on my VHS and, Kevin Smith comes out, right? Jersey guy. And Quentin Tarantino comes out. Robert Rodriguez sells his body to science to make a $7,000 film and changes how movies are made. Ed Burns, New York guy, like, these independent films, these Sundance darlings sort of come out and really changed how movies were made. And then the technology evolves to where you could literally do it on an iPhone now for real. And I've just always been a fan of film. And I realized I've always just been a fan of story. And a baseball game with no production at all has a story. A concert has a story. And commercials, if they're done well, have a story. And sports entertainment has stories. But it all comes down probably to the love of movies. And yeah, my list of top 10 is 500. So again, you need a 14-hour podcast to cover all that stuff, dude.
I get it, and you're getting me very excited here. I'm thinking about like Clerks, which is probably one of the best dialogue written movies about just like nothing really, right?
Yep.
But it's so amazing, Kevin Smith, I can't wait to have him on the show. He'll be on eventually. There's a lot of great movies too, like you mentioned about baseball, Major League 1 and 2.
Oh
wow.
Yeah, Cleveland Indians. I was in Cleveland for a while, so I have a mad love for that city. Bull Durham. I love For Love of the Game. I think that's an underrated one with
that's
Kevin
a very
Costner.
good one. Yep.
I thought that was super cool. Obviously, A League of Their Own is unbelievable. The Sandlot is unbelievable. I'm sure I'm going to have sports friends. If they listen to this, they're going to kick me for missing some. But Bad News Bears. I mean, baseball.
Bad News Bears is a good one. Yeah.
Romantic, unbelievable sport that right now could use some kind of boost to keep up with the consciousness of the new fan. The phones are amazing tools, but the phone social media space and second screen experience space right now doesn't play well in the sandbox with baseball as a traditional sport. So, they're doing what they can to evolve it. But, I'm a romantic, so I love that game. 86 Mets. I was 7 years old. First beer with dad. Like, come on. Like, that's not beer. Sip of a beer, and it was gross, and I didn't like it at all. But I remember Howard Johnson, my favorite player.
Hojo,
of course. Yeah. That romance of a sport, people have, but it's different now, right? There's a lot of studies saying people fall in love with athletes now versus teams, even athletes over sports in some cases. Like, I'm a LeBron person, whatever team he's on, right? And it's that's something that's trending in a certain way that we got to just kind of be mindful of as sports entertainment folks, and make sure that we're giving the fans what they want and telling the right stories to support, again, what they're giving us,
Well, that's brilliantly said. And, ride and die with who you like, regardless of what team they're on. Like that's what I do too. I want to ask you about combat sports, if you don't mind me asking. Do you like mixed martial arts, boxing?
I respect the hell out of it. I never was huge into it. Like, Mike Tyson was coming up in the Catskills when I was in upstate New York. And, you would watch everything he was doing. He was unbelievable. I remember the pay-per-view. I was in high school with my two best friends, and we're like, let's watch Evander Holyfield, Mike Tyson, and we had this big get together, and he bit the ear, and it was over. And I'm like, we just spent like $100 on this. Like, we don't have that kind of money. I remember that kind of breaking my heart. But the resurgence of combat sports, and it's been a while now, but it's as legitimate and as popular as it gets.
Yeah.
Right? Conor McGregor, what he does, just as a character, which UFC, WWE, a lot of those leaders there, Dana White, Triple H, they get storytelling. That's what it is. And they're not that dissimilar in the build up to the matches and everything else, and all the TV rights holder deals and getting things on ESPN Plus. That's been good to get it out there. Day to day, I know you could just crush me in talking this sport, because I know how passionate you are about it. I know you're into it and you physically do it as well. I have mad respect for all forms of entertainment and sport. And, I tip my cap to it, but I don't know it great. And going to Vegas, it was so prevalent there. Oh, the fights. I'm like, oh, yeah. The last place I was where it was that much was in Miami, because boxing especially it was a very Hispanic culture thing. So everyone got together on weekends to watch the fight. And they could be the featherweight, the lightweight, growing up, it was like heavyweight, and that's all there was. And there's such a more vast scope to that wasn't in my, cultural development as I grew up. So a lot of appreciation for it, but I don't, day to day, I'm not following it. Not the way you are.
No, I'm a boxing and mixed martial arts junkie.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. And my wife will tell you that, and she'll definitely, give me the pat on the back for that. But real quick, before I let you go, man, how do we follow you? How do we follow what's going on with your universe and your world and all these great things that you're doing, John?
You know what? More than me, team first, follow anything the Seattle Kraken are doing, right? At Sea Kraken for most of the channels. Seattle Kraken and Climate Pledge Arena and Oakview Group are doing things, in my opinion, that are rarely done, if ever done. And there's more to come. And it's incredible to be a part of a movement that's greater than sports, greater than entertainment. This is humanity stuff. This is climate stuff. This is doing things with an open heart. And I'm incredibly proud to be a part of the Kraken organization, and with this leadership and the creative coaching to be the best we can for this market. And then if you're really bored, you can follow me at Johnny Greco on Twitter, or I am Johnny Greco at Instagram. But, definitely more about the team than anything else. But since you asked, I'll throw it your way, partner. I'm like you. I don't want to sell myself. I want to be myself.
Well, that's what's up. And again, real recognizes real, but you're doing a great thing. You have a new franchise that's going on right now. And you're all trying to go out there and be the best you can be. And that's an incredible thing to do. Let's think about that, listeners. Let's think about that real quick. Is that a new franchise, a new team to come out into an already organized league, NHL
during a pandemic.
During a pandemic.
Building a team. They write books about building teams all the time. I don't think anyone's written one in about 100 years about building a team during a pandemic. So that there's going to be quite some narratives that come out of this journey. That's for sure. A lot of lessons here on this path.
That's what's incredible. And I give everyone credit, especially those that are persevering, those that are going through adversity, those who went through the pandemic, which we all have, and then find a way to get through the adversity and put together a franchise, man. That is
there's obstacles or there's opportunities. You pick your O and roll with it. But attitude makes the difference, man. If you have an attitude and a spirit and you do it with an open heart, you're not always going to get it right, but you're going to be in the right part of the swimming pool at least.
I just got knocked off my chair. Literally, what you said right there. You pick your O. John, that's why, like, when I first met you, brother, I was saying, to you right away, you're a brother from a different mother, and real recognizes real. And I cannot thank you enough for this great experience. And my listeners will be so thankful to hear all this I mean, how do I put it? Gainful. I mean, whether it's inspirational, whether it's about sports, whether it's about music, culture, family, education. I mean, so much for people to obtain information. And John, I thank you.
Hey, brother, I love you, John. Thank you for everything you've done for my family and I. And it was an absolute honor to be here today, my man. Happy creating, brother.
Thank you, brother.